My name is Veronica Carter. I'm 30 years old, living in a quiet town about an hour's drive from Seattle. Every morning, I brew a pot of black coffee, check the weather app, and walk 3 blocks to my office. I'm the co-founder of Greenwave Solutions, a startup building tech for renewable energy. Think solar panels that don't choke landfills. It's not the kind of job you explain easily, especially to folks who think office means typing emails all day. My family never got what I do. Or maybe they never cared to try. To them, I'm the odd younger sister, the one in plain sweaters, no makeup, always buried in spreadsheets or Zoom calls. Sarah, my sister, 3 years older, is their pride and joy. She's a marketing manager, all charm and perfect smiles. At family gatherings, Thanksgiving, Christmas, you name it, everyone orbits her. Sarah, that dress is gorgeous. Sarah, your new campaign went viral. Me? I'm lucky if someone mutters, Veronica's doing something with solar panels, right? Like I'm a footnote in their story. Growing up, I thought if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet, and carried the load, they'd see me one day. I wasn't loud like Sarah, didn't crave the spotlight, but I believed effort would earn me a place in their hearts. For 3 years, I sent money home, $20,000 in total, wired straight to their accounts. It covered Dad's heart medication after his bypass surgery, Mom's kitchen remodel when the pipes rusted through, even their premium cable package so Dad could watch his Seahawks games in HD. They never asked if I could afford it. They'd call and say, Sarah's saving for a condo, or Sarah's pitching a big client, so we're tight this month. And I'd help, like it was my duty, like I'd signed some invisible contract to keep their lives afloat. But the warmth, the pride, the love? That was all Sarah's. I was the ATM they didn't thank, the one they called when the fridge died or the roof leaked. When people ask about my family, I give a tight smile and say, we don't talk much. It's not a lie, not an evasion. It's just the truth. We haven't spoken in 2 years, no calls, no texts, no happy birthday cards. Just silence, like a phone line someone cut and never bothered to splice back together. I used to think family was the one place you could always return to, no matter what. But last November, on Thanksgiving, that belief shattered like glass. It was early fall, the kind of crisp October where the leaves turn gold and the air smells faintly of wood smoke. I'd just come off a high from closing that $3 million grant, a deal that took 6 months of sleepless nights and countless revisions. I was exhausted but proud, the kind of proud that makes you want to share it with someone. I decided to take a few days off and drive home to Millwood for Thanksgiving. It's a tradition I've always kept, even when things got tense, chopping carrots for Mom's stuffing, setting out the good china, keeping the chaos at bay so everyone else could shine. I wanted to help, but more than that, I wanted to sit at the table and feel like I belonged. I called home a month before to let them know. Dad picked up, his voice gruff as always. Hey, Dad, I said, trying to sound upbeat. I'm coming early for Thanksgiving. Let me know what you need, groceries, decorations, anything. There was a long pause, the kind that makes your stomach twist. Then he cleared his throat. Veronica, he said, don't come this year. I froze, my phone pressed tight against my ear. For a second, I thought he was joking, or maybe worried I was too busy. It's okay, I said quickly. I've cleared my schedule. I really want to be there. His voice turned sharp, like a blade. Sarah's bringing her new boyfriend, Daniel. He's a CEO, runs a real estate firm in Portland. Your job, it's hard to explain. You showing up would stir comparisons, make things awkward. Just stay where you are. My chest tightened, a cold sting crawling down my spine. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles whitened. Are you saying I'd embarrass you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't hesitate. If you insist on coming, don't call me your father. The line went dead. My apartment was so quiet I could hear the faint drip of the kitchen faucet. The coffee mug on my counter had gone cold, its steam long gone. I sat in my armchair by the window, staring at the rain-slicked street. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there, numb, as the world cracked open with a single sentence. I'd always known Sarah was their favorite, but I thought, deep down, I was still their daughter. That even if I wasn't loved like her, I was at least part of them. But those words, "Don't call me your father," they weren't just a rejection. They were an erasure. I wasn't family. I was an inconvenience, a smudge they didn't want Daniel to see. I stood and walked to my desk, my legs moving on autopilot. I opened my laptop and logged into my banking app. For 3 years, I'd sent them money every month, $700 on average, sometimes more when Mom called about a busted water heater or Dad's car needing new tires. I never missed a payment, never asked for thanks. They didn't check if I was stretching myself thin, just said, "Sarah's got her own stuff going on," and I'd cover the gap. I pulled up the transaction history and scrolled. The numbers stared back, $20,000, give or take a few bucks. My heart sank, not from regret, but from the weight of it all. Even after all that, I wasn't enough. I hovered over each recurring payment. Electric, $200. Water, $150. Internet and cable, $250. Medical copays, $100. Click. 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 Notifications popped up, one by one, autopayment cancelled successfully. No warnings, no fanfare. Just silence, the same silence I'd lived in for years. I closed the laptop and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My hands trembled, not from anger, but from the finality of it. I'd been holding their world together, and they didn't even see me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, the rain tapping against my window, replaying Dad's voice, the way it cut through me. I thought about Sarah, how she'd breeze into Thanksgiving with Daniel, all smiles, while I was told to stay away like some shameful secret. I thought about Mom, who never stood up for me, who'd call me sweetheart but never ask how I was. I thought about the years I'd spent comparing myself to Sarah, hoping if I worked harder, gave more, I'd earn a fraction of the love they poured into her. This wasn't just about one holiday. It was about a lifetime of being the unseen anchor, holding everything steady while they looked the other way. Thanksgiving came quickly, the air heavy with the scent of wet leaves and chimney smoke. I didn't call, didn't text, didn't post a single photo of pumpkin pie or autumn candles. Not out of spite, but because I couldn't pretend anymore. I was done playing the role they'd cast me in. At 4 p.m., as I sat on my balcony with a mug of chamomile tea, my phone buzzed. "Mom, Veronica, sweetheart, the power's out. Can you check? It's a big day." I stared at the screen, the word sweetheart hollow. I let the phone go dark. Dad texted next, "No water, no Wi-Fi. Call the providers now. Your mom's stressed." Then Sarah, "The internet's down, guests are here, Mom's freaking out." What's going on? I leaned back in my chair, the cold November air brushing my face. No anger, no tears, just an eerie calm. They didn't ask, "Are you okay?" Not a word about Dad's call, about the ultimatum that had severed me from them. They just wanted me to do what I'd always done, clean up their mess. I typed a reply to Sarah. "A month ago, Dad said I'd embarrass the family and shouldn't call him my father. I'm just doing what he asked. If this is inconvenient, maybe introduce someone you're not ashamed of." My thumb hovered over send, but I deleted it. They'd twist my words, make me the villain. I set the phone down and closed my eyes, letting the quiet wrap around me. My apartment was still, no demands, no judgment. Just the soft hum of the heater and the distant bark of a neighbor's dog. I sipped my tea, watching the horizon where the mountains met the sky. For the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. The next morning, my phone was flooded with messages. Sarah had left a voicemail, her voice tight with anger. "Mom's been crying since last night, Veronica. Do you know how important yesterday was? My boyfriend met the family for the first time, and everything got ruined. You're so selfish. I played it twice, not because I doubted her words, but because I needed to hear the truth in them. Selfish. For years, I hadn't been selfish enough. I'd given everything, money, time, energy, and gotten nothing but silence in return. I turned off my phone and poured another coffee. At the office, I tried to focus, but my mind kept drifting. I opened an operations report, scanning through updates on our solar grid project. One email stood out: Portland staff transfer to Seattle HQ. I clicked the attachment, skimming the names, and stopped cold. Daniel Hayes. My heart skipped a beat. I remembered Mom's voice a week earlier, casual but proud. Sarah's boyfriend, Daniel, runs a real estate firm in Portland. Such a catch. I opened his file. Current position, CEO, Portland branch. New position, Director of Operations, Seattle HQ, Approver, Veronica Carter, co-founder. I let out a small, incredulous laugh. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. $20,000. 3 years of payments, not a single thank you. I thought about the late-night calls from Mom, always urgent, always the same excuse: Sarah's on a work trip, Veronica. The heater's out. You're the only one left. Not a daughter, just the solution when Sarah was unavailable. I thought about the time Dad needed surgery, how I paid the copays without blinking, how he never mentioned it afterward. And now, they'd banned me from Thanksgiving to impress Daniel, who was about to walk into my office as my subordinate. If life were a movie, this would be the part where the audience laughs. I closed the email and walked to the window, watching the drizzle coat the street below. My reflection stared back, tired but resolute. I didn't need to do anything. The truth was already in motion, and I just had to let it unfold. I spent the rest of the day in meetings, reviewing prototypes, and signing off on budgets. But in the back of my mind, I knew something was coming, something that would shift everything. They just wanted their world back online, and I was the tool to make it happen. Then my phone rang. Aunt Ellen, the only family member who still sent me holiday texts, her messages short but kind. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over decline. But something made me answer. Her face appeared on the screen, lit by a phone flashlight in their darkened dining room. She looked weary, her gray hair pulled back. Veronica, she said softly, your mom's in a panic. The house is a mess, no lights, no water. What's going on? You never miss Thanksgiving. I took a deep breath, my voice steady despite the knot in my throat. Dad said I'd make the family look bad. Told me if I came, I shouldn't call him my father. What do you think I should do after that? Ellen's eyes widened, her lips parting. In the background, I heard Mom's voice, loud and frayed. She's probably just sulking. No one would do this on purpose. Then Sarah, sharp and accusing, Daniel's almost here. Someone called the utility company. I can't believe she'd ruined today. I gave a small, joyless smile. Ellen heard every word, her expression shifting from concern to something heavier, like she was seeing the truth for the first time. Then the screen jolted. A new face appeared, Daniel, in a tailored navy suit, his polished demeanor unmistakable from his resume photo. He stared at me, eyes narrowing, then widening in shock. Veronica? You're Veronica Carter, co-founder of Greenwave Solutions? The room went silent. I nodded, my gaze steady. He turned to the others, his voice carrying a mix of surprise and clarity. She's my new boss. She approved my transfer to Seattle. Dead silence. Sarah's jaw dropped, her wineglass frozen midair. Mom's hands clutched the tablecloth. Dad's face reddened, his knuckles white. I said calmly, hope the introductions go well, and ended the call. I set the phone down, my hands steady but my heart racing. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving a faint silver glow across the sky. No texts came, no calls, just a strange, weightless relief. I hadn't planned this. I hadn't schemed or shouted. Daniel had said it all, and the truth had done the rest. They'd assumed I was a nobody, a desk worker scraping by. Now their perfect Thanksgiving, their carefully curated stage, had collapsed under the weight of one sentence. And I hadn't lifted a finger. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and stood by the sink. The silence felt different now, not heavy, but freeing. I thought about Sarah, standing beside her unlit turkey, her charm useless against the truth. I thought about Mom, who'd called me sweetheart but never once asked how I felt. I thought about Dad, who'd rather disown me than risk me dimming Sarah's spotlight. For years, I'd been the unseen anchor, holding their world steady. Now, I'd let go, and they were floundering. That evening, my phone lit up with a text from Sarah, a long, messy wall of words. You knew, didn't you? You let this happen right in the middle of Thanksgiving. Mom's been crying all night. Daniel's acting distant. Was this your plan, Veronica? To humiliate us? I made a cup of ginger tea, the steam curling under my chin as I sat on the couch. I didn't feel joy, didn't feel guilt. I just felt done. After 10 minutes, I typed a reply. I didn't start the call. I didn't call myself his boss. I was just at home. If one truth ruined your holiday, maybe your holiday wasn't built on anything real. I hit send and set the phone face down. Half an hour later, Mom texted, I never expected you to hurt us like this, Veronica. We're family. I closed my eyes, leaning back against the cushions. Hurt them? I remembered Dad's voice, cold and final. I remembered 3 years of bank transfers, no questions asked. I remembered the time I drove 2 hours at midnight to pay a plumber because their basement flooded, and Sarah was too busy in Portland. I remembered trying so hard to be enough, to be seen. Now I was done trying. Around 10 p.m., an email pinged in my inbox. From Daniel, subject, apology. Veronica, I'm sorry I didn't make the connection sooner. I had no idea you were Sarah's sister. I respect how you handled today, silent, composed, strong. I'm ashamed, not of you, but of what I saw in that room. I'll keep work separate and professional, but I needed to say this. I read it slowly, then replied, no need to apologize, Daniel. People choose how they see others. Family stays out of the office. Sometimes silence says more than words. I clicked send, turned off my screen, and went to bed. The next morning, sunlight poured through the glass panels of my office, casting a warm glow across my desk. I powered on my computer, the hum of the building waking up around me. I opened my email, expecting the usual flood of reports and meeting invites. One message stood out, from Daniel, subject, apology and moving forward. Veronica, I couldn't sleep last night. Yesterday shouldn't have unfolded like that, but it gave me clarity. I'm not ashamed you're Sarah's sister. I'm ashamed I didn't see her true self sooner. I ended things with her this morning. Thank you for your silence, it showed me more than any argument could. You lead with fairness and strength. I'll prove my worth here. I read it twice, then leaned back in my chair. I wasn't happy Sarah got dumped. I wasn't sad either. I just felt right. For the first time, someone outside my family saw what I'd lived with for years, the favoritism, the dismissal, the way they'd built a perfect image that crumbled under scrutiny. I didn't reply to Daniel. There was no need. He'd seen enough, and I had work to do. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. Sarah. Veronica, I know you're busy, but please talk to Daniel. He's misunderstanding everything. 5 minutes later, another, you're his boss. You have influence. If you say something, he'll stay. I stood and walked to the window, gazing at the wet street below. All those years, I'd waited for one message from Sarah asking, "You okay?" or "How's work?" Nothing. Not a single check-in when I failed a pitch, not a word when I landed that $3 million grant. Now she needed me, not as a sister, but as a lever to fix her relationship. I typed, "Daniel didn't leave because of me. He left because of who you are. Maybe he saw something you didn't." I sent it and returned to my desk. An hour later, Sarah replied, "You want to lose him? I'll change, I swear. Please, just this once." I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the keyboard. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who'd drop everything to help, who'd pay any bill, fix any crisis, just to feel needed. That girl was gone. I didn't respond, not out of anger, but because I was past the point of carrying her burdens. When I left the office that evening, the early winter breeze was sharp, but the sunset cast a deep amber glow across Millwood's rooftops. I walked to the parking lot, my steps light, unhurried. I hadn't sought revenge. I hadn't raised my voice. I'd simply lived my truth, and the rest had unraveled on its own. Sarah had built a fragile facade, and Daniel, once charmed by her glitter, had seen the foundation I'd known my whole life, shallow, conditional, built on appearances. That night, I played an old jazz playlist, the kind I'd listened to in Greenwave's early days, when we were just three friends with a wild idea and a rented desk. The saxophone notes felt like a quiet affirmation, a reminder of how far I'd come. I wasn't the invisible sister anymore. I was Veronica Carter, co-founder, leader, someone who'd learned to stand firm without shouting. About a week later, on a rare Sunday when I vowed to avoid my laptop, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone and nearly ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. I peeked through the peephole. Mom and Dad stood at my gate, their breath visible in the cold morning air. Mom clutched a small tote bag, her face lined with exhaustion. Dad had his arms crossed, his eyes less stern than that phone call but still carrying their usual edge. I stood still for a moment, letting the sight sink in. Then I opened the door, saying nothing. "Hi, honey," Mom said, her voice raspy, like she'd been up all night. "Can we come in and talk?" I stepped aside, letting them into my small, tidy apartment, no family photos, no trace of their presence. I poured 2 glasses of water, set them on the coffee table, and sat across from them, my hands folded in my lap. The silence stretched, heavy and unfamiliar. Dad spoke first, his voice low. "About Thanksgiving." I said some things I shouldn't have. I nodded, waiting. He shifted, uncomfortable. "Sarah's been a mess since Daniel left. Your mom's been crying nonstop. We just want to sit down and talk, like a family." I stayed quiet, my eyes steady. I knew this script, the long build-up before they got to what they really wanted. Mom jumped in, right on cue, pulling a folded paper from her bag. "We've thought it through, Veronica," she said, her hands trembling slightly. "You're stable now, doing so well. We're hoping you could help with a monthly contribution, maybe $1,500. Just enough for bills, insurance, some retirement savings." Dad nodded, his tone almost defensive. "It's not much for someone in your position. We're family, after all." I sat up straighter, my voice calm but firm. "What about Sarah?" Mom hesitated, glancing at Dad. "She's struggling, honey. She lost her job after the breakup. We can't pressure her right now." I let out a soft laugh, not bitter, just tired. Sarah, always the one who couldn't be touched. I looked at them, my gaze unwavering. "If Sarah agrees to pay $750, I'll consider it. But I want a contract, signed and notarized, stating that when you both pass, the house and all assets go to me." The room went still. Dad's face flushed, his jaw tight. "You're seriously giving your own parents conditions?" I didn't blink. "Not conditions, Dad. Principles. I paid $20,000 over 3 years. Not once did you ask if I was okay, if I could afford it. No one said thank you. If you want my help now, it's on clear terms, or not at all. Mom's eyes darted to Dad, her voice wavering. Maybe we should talk it over. Dad shot up, his hand slamming the table, making the glasses rattle. We raised you for 30 years, and now you demand a contract? Unbelievable. I stayed seated, my voice even. I don't owe you, Dad. If raising me was an investment, we can calculate it line by line, school lunches, doctor visits, all of it. But I won't pay for it with silence anymore. He opened his mouth, then closed it, his lips pressed tight. Mom stood, tugging his arm. Let's go, Robert. I walked them to the door, no hugs, no goodbyes. The door clicked shut, and the apartment was mine again, filled only with the soft rustle of the breeze from the balcony. They never reached out after that. No calls, no texts, no apologies for the outburst that had shaken my home like a storm. Just silence, not the kind born of remorse, but the kind from people who don't know how to speak when they're no longer in control. I expected it, in a way. I'd grown used to their silence, the way it settled over everything like dust. I kept living my life. Mornings with coffee, afternoons pitching to investors who'd once scoffed at a woman leading a tech startup, evenings reviewing data from our latest solar prototype. I stopped feeling guilty for saying no, for refusing to be their fallback wallet or their crisis manager. I stopped thinking I was wrong for wanting more than their conditional affection. Love can't be measured in bank transfers or obligations. If it only exists when the bills are paid, it's not family, it's a transaction. I cut the invisible strings they'd tied me to. I changed my phone wallpaper from an old family photo to a shot of the Olympic Mountains at dawn. I didn't mark Sarah's birthday in my calendar. I didn't send a Christmas card or hover over my phone, waiting for an apology that would never come. I learned to put the period at the end of my own sentences, to stop waiting for them to start with sorry. At Greenwave, Daniel settled into his role as Director of Operations. He was focused, professional, and kept a respectful distance. We never talked about Sarah, not once, and I appreciated that. Some truths, once seen, are best left unspoken. He delivered reports on time, streamlined our budget, and never mentioned Thanksgiving. I liked that about him, his ability to let the past stay where it was. One afternoon, about a month later, I stopped by a cafe in Millwood, a cozy spot with exposed brick walls and the smell of fresh pastries. I ordered a latte and chose a seat by the window, watching the drizzle coat the sidewalk. On the wall hung a carved wooden sign, "Family isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a choice." I sipped my coffee, letting the words sink in. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who believed if she was quiet enough, gave enough, she'd be loved. I thought about the years I'd spent measuring my worth by their approval, letting their dismissal define me. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I'd chosen to stand up, not to fight them, but to protect myself. I'd set boundaries, not because I was selfish, but because I'd finally understood that self-worth isn't built on someone else's pity or sudden needs. If someone asked me, "Veronica, do you regret not helping your parents when they asked?" I'd say, I regret it took me so long to realize I deserved better. Real family sees you as a whole person, not a wallet, not a stand-in, not the last resort when their golden child falters. My story might seem harsh to some. Society tells us family duty is untouchable, that saying no to your parents is a betrayal. But try walking in my shoes, the daughter shut out for not being impressive enough, paying thousands in silence, never hearing, "Are you okay?" I didn't choose family in the traditional sense. I chose me. And in that choice, I found a freedom I didn't know I'd been missing. What about you? Was I too cold, or did I learn to love myself just in time? Share your thoughts, because your story might be the light someone needs when they're caught between duty and freedom. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, know this, you're not alone. Sometimes, the firmest step, the one that feels like breaking, is the first toward real peace.